Good day to you and welcome to another interesting edition of the Corporate Affairs Commission on Track, a program packaged by the CAC to enlighten every one of us on the regulatory framework of the Commission. I am Ile Emeje, your host. The Act establishing the Corporate Affairs Commission stipulates the necessity of all businesses operating across the country to be fully registered with the Commission for regulatory, monitoring, and effective supervision. This is embedded in the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA 2019 as amended, which empowers the CAC to ensure that all businesses in Nigeria are in compliance with the rules and regulations of the Commission or face sanctions. Some of these include, among others, the registration process, certification, filing of annual returns, transfer of shares or stocks, dissolution of board and directors, and closure as the case may be. And so in this episode of the Corporate Affairs Commission on Track program, we shall be taking a look at the frequently asked questions on all the processes, beginning from the registration process to the filing of returns, to the change or transfer of ownership of stocks or shares as the case may be, and to the closure of the organization as the case may be. My guest is the Assistant Director and Head, FCT Nodal Office of the Corporate Affairs Commission, Mr. Muftahu Bello Babamba, joining us after the promo to discuss the topic. We'll be right back.
All belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage. And if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unites.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 3.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
You are on to the Enlightenment Program of the Corporate Affairs Commission, tagged the CAC On Track program, where we enlighten you on the activities and the regulatory framework of the Commission. And my guest, as I mentioned earlier, is an Assistant Director with the Corporate Affairs Commission, Mr. Muftahu Bello Babamba. Mr. Babamba, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me once again.
All right. Whenever the CAC emphasizes the need to register all businesses operating in Nigeria, one thing that comes to the mind of the people is what or which way do I get my company or a business name registered? Which one? Is it a business name? Is it by liability, company liability? Is it with partnership? what do you expect those people to do? What will come to your mind, or what's the explanation to give them?
Thank you very much once again. You see, there are the Corporate Affairs Commission registers different types of vehicles within which to start your business or to do business. You can start small. The Companies and Allied Matters Act of 2020 has recently introduced what we call a one-man company, a one-shareholder company.
Okay.
It's called small company. It was not there before. We call it small company. Okay. So it was not among the companies that the Commission used to register. So with the advent of Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, you can now register what we call a one-man company, whereby the company is owned by one man, one director and one shareholder. Okay. And then, you know, unlike before that, you must be a minimum, it must be a minimum of 2 members. Yeah. So we now have a small company. So what it means is that there are various ways you can start your business. You can start small and you grow and to become a PLC, a public liability company. For instance, like Dangote Group of Companies, for instance. So first of all, you have small company now, which is one man. The company and the owner of the company are separate and different. The owner can have properties separate and different from the one-man company. So if the company's name is ABC Limited, for instance, and the man's name is, for instance, Muftau Bello, Muftau Bello is different from ABC Limited, even though Muftau Bello is the only director and shareholder in ABC Limited. Yeah. You understand? So that's a small company. So many things CAMA 2020 has put in place to make everything easy for him to do his business. So you have, that is one type of company that you can register now. Before we go into even other registration, we're talking about companies. Now let us talk about companies. Okay. We have types of companies and then we have types of registration. So because there are registrations that we do that are not companies, but they can also be used to carry on business. Yes. So that is a one-man company. Then we now have private company. So private company is the one that the Memorandum of Association has limited. In fact, the type of company that we have depends on the limitation of the liability of members. Okay. You know, we have about, let me call them 6 types of company. This small company is a new one that has joined them now. So there are 6 types of, but the CAMA makes it like in 3 forms. It says that the Memorandum of Association of the company says that the liability is limited to the shares that the members have subscribed to. If, for instance, in a company that you and I open, we register with a 1 million share capital. You take 500,000 shares and I take 500. So 500,000 shares have been issued to me and 500,000 shares issued to you. You and I are expected to bring out the cash, the capital. So it is only issued. So you and I are expected to bring out the capital to run the business. If in the event that there is a problem in the company or the company is being wound up. So if, for instance, you have only brought out 200,000 to run the company, and I brought out 300,000 to run the company, and we start running the company with a sum of 500,000 naira. You and I have obligation of 500,000 naira to bring in the event of any problem. So I will now bring my balance of 300,000.
And I will bring my 200,000.
200,000. So your liability, so that's what we call a private company. So your liability, the limitation of your liability, like I said, is what determines the type of companies that we are talking about. Okay. So your liability is to the amount unpaid on the shares in the event that the company is being wound up. So that is private company. That's one. Company limited. We call it company, the CAMA calls it company limited by shares.
Company limited
by shares. So apart from the small company that we are talking about now, so you have company limited by shares. Then you have company limited by guarantee.
What does that mean? So
in a guarantee company, it does not have shares, but the company is set up to promote, maybe education, charity, art, science, religion, culture, and a host of other things. So what happens there is that the members undertake, there's an amount of money each member undertake to contribute to the company in the event that the company is being wound up. You understand? So what CAMA says prescribed is 100,000 naira each by each member. If you and I are a member of a limited by guarantee company now, and I'm also add that a company limited by guarantee must have a minimum of 2 members. So talking about the differences that we are talking about.
Yeah.
So if you and I register a company limited by guarantee now, you and I, we are bringing on board a minimum of 100,000 for the limited by guarantee company to take off.
Okay.
You understand? So it can be more. We can decide to bring 1 million. Decide to bring. So,
depends on what
what we want to do. But a minimum amount that you and I are to undertake to guarantee in the event of any problem or the company being wound up is a minimum of 100,000 each. So that's the company limited by guarantee. And then we have unlimited company. So in an unlimited company, there is no liability. There is no limitation to the liability in the event that the company is being wound up. So if, for instance, like explanation I gave before, we have 500,000 naira each, and the company is running into problem. If there is need for us to sell our cars and our houses, so the liability is not limited to what we have what we have subscribed to.
Okay.
So in the case of unlimited company, the liability is not limited to what we have subscribed to. So if there is need, it goes beyond that. It could be asked, we may be compelled to sell our cars and our houses to our assets. So liability is to offset. So these are the three categories that Kama has mentioned, and then it went further to say that any of these three companies can be private or public.
Okay.
You understand? So what it then means is that you can have a private company limited by shares, you can have a public company limited by shares, you can have a public you can have a company limited by a public company limited by guarantee, you can have a private company limited by guarantee, you can have a public unlimited company, and you can have a private unlimited company, making 6. You understand? So in a nutshell, we can say there are 6 types of companies. So in addition to the small company that you have mentioned.
Okay.
So we still proceed to maybe what we call limited liability partnership, which Kama 2020 has introduced. The limited liability partnership is also a company. It's an entity of its own, with all the features of a corporate entity. Can sue and be sued. It can own properties and the rest of them. So that's a limited liability. The difference between the limited liability partnership and the company limited by shares is the fact that the partnership agreement. Whereas in the company limited by shares, the constitution of that company, the agreement, the document is the memorandum and article of association. So, but in the case of a limited liability partnership, what you have there is a partnership agreement. So these are some of the types of companies that we have. Then we are let us proceed to other types of registration. We call them registration. They are still vehicles for which you can carry out a number of activities. So we now have what we call business names.
The popular one, the almighty
the business name.
That's the commonest of
so in other parlance, they refer to them as small and medium enterprise. They are not big companies.
No.
And they are not corporate entities. What you are simply doing, you are trading under the name and style of that entity. You are registered, but you are not an entity. The owner of that Mr. A, you understand? If I have a business name, for instance now, or what we call limited partnership. If I have a business name, Muftau Bello is not different from ABC Enterprise, for instance, if the name of the business name is ABC Enterprise, for instance. So if there is any liability, I am not different from the business enterprise. The same thing also applies to limited partnership. Limited partnership is also not an entity, a corporate entity, but you are trading under the name and style of that limited partnership. You understand? It also has a partnership agreement. So these are type of registration that you can use to do business, but are not companies. Companies are corporate entities that have all the features of a corporate entity.
Okay.
Then,
in recent time, the CAC came up with, like you explained, in some instances where one person can register a company, 2 people can register a company by business name, and the rest of them. Does this apply to the non-governmental organizations that we have across the country, the NGOs? Is it the same thing?
You see, the NGOs, are strictly speaking not a business-oriented, not profit-making organization. It's not out to do business, unlike the other vehicles that I've mentioned now. But they also carry out. There is a thin line between a company limited by guarantee and NGO, non-governmental organization, because they are all out to do things that will benefit the society, the community. You understand? So the NGO is a non-profit organization. So pure, strictly non-profit making organization. Unlike the company where it does business, but it does not share profit. Whatever a company limited by guarantee does, it plunges back the profit into the object for which that company was established.
Okay. Going back to the away from the non-governmental organizations, a lot of people have come up to ask that in case or in an event that I want to buy shares, I want to become a shareholder in company A, B, or C, and these companies, the 4 companies A, B, C, they could be into different things. Where do you advise me? What are the requirements or the indicators for me to know that shares of A company or B company are of more standard quality, are recognized by the CAC?
Well, the issue of share acquisitions, you know, ours is to register the shares.
And it stops there?
Yes, ours. So it's now left. If, for instance, now you want to acquire shares, shares are acquired usually by public companies that are quoted on stock exchange. Okay. So the public company, they are usually owned by, that's why it's a public company. It's called public company or public liability company because the liability is open to the public.
But are all of this under the purview or the control of the Corporate Affairs Commission?
Yes, when you want to register, just like we have been saying, I have mentioned a number of
shareholding.
Shares, of course, the shares that we register. You want to register a public company.
Yes.
You come up with the shares that you want us to register for you as a public company, and then we register it. So it's now left for you, if it's a public company, to invite the members of the public to subscribe to your shares. Usually we have, they have their agents that publicize this thing. Yeah. So, but for private company, the one difference again between a public and private, because we are talking about types and even their differences. Yes. And then when we are talking about their differences and even their requirements, we need to bring in some of these things. Yeah, so like for a private company, the private company does not transfer. They don't sell their shares to the public. That's one of the limitations. One of the features of a private company. A private company does not sell. If for any reason a private company wants to sell its shares, you understand? For any reason, it first of all offer it to existing members before it is open to others. So, but a public company, they have prospectus. They invite the public to come and subscribe to their shares. Usually, it is published in the newspaper and so it's we register the shares, but how the company wants to deal with the shares is actually left to them. Okay, again, another frequently asked question by your clients and intending clients to on the CAC platform is it has to do with the dissolution of members of the board of an organization, be it a non-profit organization or a limited liability company. But most of the questions on this particular issue came from people that are running non-governmental organizations. For instance, if I have an NGO that I'm coordinating and there are board of directors or board members, we call them trustees, that are not functioning, they are not forthcoming, they don't show up, no contribution, nothing to do with this particular NGO, and you want to dissolve them. What is the process of dissolution? Yes, thank you. The board of trustees will hold a meeting. In an NGO you have the governing council. So they will hold. Usually they also come up by way of resolution. They hold a meeting and come up with what they have resolved to do, and then they are going to file this resolution of what they want to do with us, along with other documents. For instance, you have members that have not, been functional or are inactive, and then, so what you will do first of all is to come up to hold a meeting of the NGO, and then you come up with your resolution, what the meeting has resolved to carry out. And if they want to remove certain members for one reason or the other, you know, and then duly signed, then you are going to file this resolution to us, in the file of the NGO,
Yeah.
and
To
then
the
you'll
CAC.
be, yes, to CAC, and then you'll be required to do publication in newspapers. You'll be required to do publication in newspapers asking for objection. If for any reason
Any
there is
member want to object.
Yeah, object, and then the period is always within 28 days. So if you have any objection to raise as to whether, you understand, you are contesting your removal from the association, you know, or and then so within the period, within that 28 days window for objection after publication. So if we receive any objection to that effect, we will look at it. If there is any need, we can invite the applicants, the objectors, and then the people for whom the objections were brought.
Yeah.
We sit down and we look at it. If there is merit we will find a way to mediate. If there is merit in the objection, then we can advise them appropriately. You know, if there is no merit, you know, we will not go ahead.
Therefore,
to,
you act as a mediator between...
Exactly, yes, between these two.
All right.
So if there is any merit, if there is no merit, we do away with it.
But again, can there be any objection from any member that is termed a sleeping or dormant member of our on the
Well, he may come up and say that he's not dormant. He may, if he doesn't want to be removed, he may come up and give excuses. Yes, he come up, you know, we receive such cases. We receive a lot of such cases. You know, we usually do a lot of mediation. In fact, with regards to even NGOs for pre, that is the one that is just about to register.
Yeah.
We have had cases, several cases, whereby you want to register an NGO, you have done publication of the names of the trustees. Some people are aggrieved that they have not been carried along, that they are supposed to be members. So why are you not, why will you register this and then we are not trustees? We have received cases like that. We invite them to sit down. We look at everybody's side of the story.
Yeah.
Sometimes we advise them to go and incorporate themselves. They will go the other side, they bring their own members, you understand, and these people, they join together, and then we will now go ahead and register.
Okay, when somebody is tired or is done with a particular shares and you want to dispose them, you want to sell them, what is the process? I have shares from company A, B, C, and I want to transfer the shareholding. What do I do?
So like I said earlier, you know, shares are not, you know, private companies don't just sell shares to other people. If they have to sell shares, they
They're
all
always advertised. People go for
yes,
them,
okay, so that is in the case of public shares,
yes.
public, you know. So if you have, there are some of these agents, you know, I call them like agents who, middle companies, some of them are even companies, you know. I can't remember, you understand, you can go to them, you understand, they are stockbrokers, sorry, stockbrokers. You know, it's called in the parlance. So they will advise you, you know, as to when to sell or when not to sell. If the value is low, they may advise you to wait until it goes up. If it is ripe for you to sell, they will advise you. You know, so you have your agents that can give you proper advice when to sell, when not to sell, and when to sell to earn profit, and when to wait. And then all that. I think you will need that intervention.
When you are having a trust deficit on these agents, stock brokers, is it possible for the person to visit the CAC, or the CAC has nothing to do with the transfer of shareholding?
No, CAC. But when you have done your documentation, you bring for us to accept and file. So we do not intervene. Those are part of the internal affairs of a company. How they deal with their shares, you know, how the subscriptions are done. Our own is to register, because we keep public documents. And so once you have done your documentation, what you want to do, as long as within the purview of Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, what you have done is not it does not contravene the provisions of CAMA,
Okay.
we will accept the documents and file it for you
All right.
in our document.
Time will not allow us to go on and on and on the frequently asked question. But before we round off, what will be your advice to those who choose to neglect the registration with the CAC, either in business name or in company names? What do you advise them to do? They have refused to comply with the rules and regulations of the CAC, but they are operating on the Nigerian economy.
Well, my advice to them is that, we have a Registrar General who has human compassion, and then, who knows that how difficult it is, you understand, to do business and some of the challenges that we have, power, and then and the rest of them, you understand. So ordinarily, the Registrar General would have said, let us follow the law strictly. Go after anybody that has not registered and bring them to justice. You understand? Take them to court, have them penalized.
Place sanctions on them.
Exactly, and then, and still get them, because after the penalty, you will still be compelled to register. But you say, no, what we should do is that, let us sensitize them, let us enlighten them to come forward and register their businesses in compliance with the law and to avoid sanctions and to avoid, any rancor between the government agency, the Corporate Affairs Commission, and the members of the public. As a matter of fact, it is still in line with this that the Registrar General has decided to still bring registration to the doorsteps of I want to use this opportunity to tell members of the public that the Commission will soon open an office in Maraba, still to bring registration closer to the people.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, to bring registration. So we don't actually have any. If you are living in Maraba, all you need to do is to walk into the office of CAC in Maraba because of its proximity with Federal Capital Territory. You understand? Just walk into the office and get yours. So it's still in line of trying to bring registration to the doorstep of the people that he has decided to open an office in Maraba, you understand, for members of the public to come and register their business. So whoever is in that axis, so it will be easier for them, or even in Kefi, Maraba, Nyanya, you understand? Yes, it is easier for them to come, you understand, to Maraba office. Yes, exactly. So you just come there and have your company register. Let everybody register their businesses so that they avoid any sanction.
And for those that are registered but they are yet to comply with the filing of annual reports. Annual
return, exactly. Yeah. So we also advise them that they should, because they are all actually doing that in their own, for their own good. Because when you file as at when due, you pay less. You understand? When you show evidence of your returns, you pay a very minimal amount of money than when you are filing late. When you are filing late, you file with penalty. You pay more money. And
well, then so debt forgiveness or penalty.
It's statutory, so it's statutory, so there's no such thing as debt forgiveness.
Okay. Yes. There is no substitute for us debt forgiveness when it comes to non-compliance with the filing of annual returns.
No, it's statutory.
But the CAC is also trying to open an office in Maraba axis of the Federal Capital Territory to ensure that it goes close to the people. So you have no excuse to register your business. Ensure you register your business in any form to avoid the sanctions. That is the word of my guest. And with that advice, we have come to the end of today's edition of the CAC On Track program. The guest we have been speaking with is the head of Nodal Office of the Corporate Affairs Commission in the Federal Capital Territory. My guest is Mr. Muftahu Bello Babamba, who is also an Assistant Director with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Mr. Babamba, we want to thank you for always honoring our invitation to come and enlighten us.
It's always my pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
And to our esteemed guests, to our esteemed audience out there, we want to say thank you for spending part of your time with us on today's edition of the CAC On Track program. Join us again next time for another interesting edition of the program. I am Ile Emeche saying good day to you.